I thought I'd take this opportunity to say something about the performance of Liverpool FC this year. It's my team, and I'm very proud of them. I think they did a great job this year. Um, yeah, it's been 3.5 years that Klopp's been there, and it started okay, and then it seemed to plateau maybe for a while, and there were some signs of unrest from some supporters kind of saying, oh, well, Klopp is not improving the team any better than Brendan Rodgers did. And then, after finishing eighth in his first season, he did get to the final of the Europa League, but lost it. So it's around that time that people were kind of grumbling and saying, well, what's the difference between Klopp and Rodgers? Well, now I think everybody can see Rodgers was a bright young spark when he was hired by FSG, but he never really kicked on. And we can see now that he's really unlikely to kick on to the necessary level. There are many managers like that, many coaches like that. They reach a certain level, and mid-table teams are happy to hire them, knowing that they will probably keep them in the Premier League and also get them playing some nice football as well. So I think that's really Rodgers' level, and yeah, he was okay also at Celtic, where he could win multiple trophies year after year, and a lot of managers really could do that. Um, yeah, so there was a fear for a while when Rodgers was replaced with Klopp that it would be the same, and Klopp wouldn't be able to kick on either. However, he got to the final of the Champions League last year, finished fourth in the league, so that was definitely improvement, and everyone could see the way that the Klopp's team, with his high press, was blowing teams away with his magnificent forwards, the threesome, Salah, Firmino, and Sane, and it was really awesome to watch them blow away Manchester City in the Champions League, and Roma too. However, as everybody knows, it was kind of very gung ho, and you never knew what was going to happen at the back, and certainly never really trusted the defence very much. Neither of the goalkeepers inspired much confidence, and when they finally did get to the final against Real Madrid, the bottom really fell out with Karius giving away 2 goals. Basically, it was Real Madrid. The final score was Real Madrid 1, Liverpool 1, Karius 2. So that wasn't good. And the concussion thing, well, I'm not sure if I really buy into that. I'm not saying he wasn't concussed according to some kind of medical model, but I think these are the kind of mistakes that Karius can make on the big occasion. So we came to this year, and it was absolutely amazing, really, the difference. So from being a team that had been able to blow teams away by hard pressing over short periods of time, Liverpool became a really difficult team to beat, and yet also continued to score plenty of goals. It was an amazing change in a very short period of time. So the change between last season and this season was the kind of change you expect to see over maybe 3 or 4 seasons. So all credit to Jurgen Klopp for being able to make that change in a single season. Of course, the acquisition of Alisson and Van Dijk in the defence had a lot to do with shoring up the gaps and making everybody really confident at the back. But still, nobody could have expected 97 points. It was an incredible achievement, and to go from being so far behind City to being just 1 point behind them is crazy, really. there are inevitably, as Liverpool lost the Premier League, there will be things we can look at, areas where they can improve for the future. But the basic reality is that the improvements they made from last year to this year were absolutely crazy, and it was almost inevitable that they would make a few errors along the way, never having been on this path before, unlike City. Um, so, what can we say about the failure to actually get over the line in the Premier League? Well, nobody really expected them to, and for a long time, City were a couple of points ahead, and everybody was just praising Liverpool for keeping a couple of points behind the whole time. Then suddenly, City lost a few games unexpectedly. Crystal Palace at home, and Chelsea away, um, and then there was the totally unexpected loss to Newcastle. Of course, there was also a loss to Leicester away too. So it was a really unexpected sequence of results for City after having drawn with Liverpool earlier in the season. This gave Liverpool a real chance, and suddenly they were, was it 7 points ahead of City, and they had a real chance of going ahead and winning the Premier League. This is where a bit of an inexperience came through, because I thought, a bit of inexperience came through. They were a little bit nervous when they went ahead. They were not used to being ahead in the Premier League race. It was kind of great to be 2 points behind City, and that is a real statement. But suddenly to be ahead of City, it was unknown territory, and I think that they did get nervous and drop a few unnecessary points around about that time. The really pivotal point of the season from the Premier League point of view was when City were beaten by Newcastle, and Rafa kind of did his old club a favour there. Liverpool just had to beat Leicester at home, and in fact, if they'd done that and all the other results had been the same, they would have won the Premier League. However, a bit of nervousness came through, and they weren't able to get over the line against Leicester and just drew 1-1. Points dropped while City started winning all their games. Then go to West Ham, another draw, another 2 points dropped. City keep winning. Then go to Manchester United. Usually a point would be a good result, but against this Manchester United team, and with all the injuries on that day, Liverpool should really have won. But another draw, so another 2 points dropped. And then to Everton, which, could easily have been lost. A game that could easily have been lost at Goodison Park, but it was drawn, and yet another 2 points dropped. That whole sequence of draws after City had been beaten by Leicester really cost Liverpool the Premier League. That was 8 points dropped. All they needed to do was just win one of them, probably Leicester at home, and they would have been ahead, but and would have won the Premier League. But I'm not sure that if they got ahead if they'd won against Leicester, could they at this stage have psychologically maintained that lead? Perhaps because it was the first time they'd been in that position, they were just not able to cope with the pressure of being ahead, and as soon as they got even just 1 point behind, they were happy to just keep on City's coattails and hope that they would drop a few points along the way, probably towards the end of the season, so that Liverpool could just suddenly win on the last day or something like that. Maybe that's what they were really hoping for. City dropping points in the last 1 or 2 games, and then suddenly they would be the champions and wouldn't have to worry about about the pressures of being ahead. So yeah, it was unfortunate, and that whole sequence started really with Liverpool losing at City. I think if they'd drawn at City, they probably would have taken strength from that and wouldn't have drawn so many games in the immediate aftermath. So the whole thing was unfortunate, but it was also a result of inexperience. Liverpool hadn't been in that position before, and it's always difficult to do something for the first time. Don't think that they will suffer from the same problem next year. I think Klopp and the players know very well what what can be improved regarding the performance in the Premier League this year, and they know how to get over the line next year. I think they will be okay if they get ahead next year. In order to do that, I think they will need to obviously keep all their players, all their significant players, because any kind of change will disrupt things. If one of the big players go and another big player comes in, it will take time to bed in, so on and so forth. So just losing a player and getting another player of the same quality, or someone who is even better, I think would probably mean that City would win it again, because I don't think that you can. I don't think they will have time to bed a new player in. So let's hope that they can keep hold of all their present players and also add new depth to the squad so that they begin to rival City in that way. Anyway, it was a great achievement, 97 points, and on any other occasion, any other year, they would undoubtedly have won it, except for last year when City got 100 points. So yeah, let's hope that Liverpool will do it next year. I think they can do, and I obviously hope they do. Let's move on to a review of the Champions League campaign. For a lot of the time, it seemed to be secondary to the Premier League for Liverpool. This year, it was a kind of relief break from the pressures of the Premier League, and there were a lot of ups and downs. So in the group stages, as we know, Liverpool lost all the away games very unexpectedly to Red Star Belgrade. The other two, well, you can lose them, but if they'd won against Red Star Belgrade, they would have gone through easily. Unfortunately, they left themselves with a horrible final game against Napoli, but it was at home, and they had to win by 1-0, and that's exactly what they did. So they just scraped through to the next stage, the knockout stage, in the same way that Tottenham did, really. At the knockout stage, began to get better, I think, although there had been some very good results in the group stage against PSG and Red Star Belgrade at home. But initially it seemed like a disappointment, a 0-0 draw at Anfield. But yeah, we all knew that Liverpool were very well capable of scoring a goal in Germany. And in fact, they scored 3 of them, so they won easily in the end, 3-1. Great result against one of the giants of the Champions League, and they really deserved to go through. They were a bit fortunate in drawing Porto in the quarterfinals, and as everybody expected, they got through pretty easily against them, 6-2 on aggregate. No need to spend a lot of time on the Barcelona tie, because it's it still lives in everybody's memory. 3-0 in Barcelona, and then the most incredible game at Liverpool when the Reds took the tie 4-0 with Trent Alexander-Arnold setting up the goal with that incredible corner. Really, the greatest comeback short of Istanbul, I would think. So certainly the greatest comeback at Anfield. Uh, Incredible. So just like the Premier League results were incredible this year, this never say die spirit that saw Liverpool get through against Napoli and then against Bayern after 0-0 draw at home, and then incredibly against Barcelona, winning the tie 4-0 at home. This really showed exactly where Liverpool is at now. Really a difficult team to beat, and nobody will ever feel easy when they're in a fight against them, be it the best European teams in the Champions League or Manchester City at home. City know that they probably have a big fight on their hands next year. And I really hope that Liverpool can lift the Premier League this time. Of course, Liverpool do spend money, and they FSG are certainly not poor and have pumped plenty into the club. However, there's a certain level of normalcy about Liverpool, whereas City are just off the charts. It's just simply buy a club, pump hundreds of millions into it, and win everything. So I think that these Arabic sheikhs prefer to buy a club with no character because they can shape it in the way that they want to. Then they prefer to buy a Manchester City or maybe a Newcastle, a team that doesn't really have any character of its own. Newcastle, I know, used to have, but these days I'm not sure they do. So yeah, I don't think a team like Liverpool would be attractive to the sheikhs because it comes with too much baggage from their point of view. But that's good because I think we're really fortunate with owners like FSG, like Klopp. People were skeptical to begin with, but they've proved themselves over a long period of time now, and they proved that their model, which needed to be tweaked at the beginning, actually is efficacious and can be successful, targeting particular players according to data analysis. And in conjunction with a manager like Klopp, this has proved incredibly good. So the future is bright. Of course, I didn't say anything about the Champions League final. That was not a great game, but on the whole, Liverpool managed it very well. They showed that they can win in different ways. They got the early goal, and then they decided that they didn't just want to play an open game, whereas almost always happens, there is an equaliser and then it goes to extra time and penalties. They decided that they just wanted to sit on the penalty and close the game out. And because of the solidity of their defence, they were able to do that and kind of challenge Tottenham to come and open them up. And of course they couldn't do it. And then in the end, Origi finished it off in the last moments. A well-deserved win for Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool, and it was impressive that they could change their style to do exactly what was needed, just sit on a lead and win 1-0 if necessary. It was very, very important because if they hadn't won that game, lots of people would have been saying, oh, Jurgen Klopp's come second again, second in the Premier League, second a runner-up in the Cup again, the Champions League again. Now it's 7 finals that he's lost in a row. So yeah, it was important to get that particular monkey off Klopp's back, and he's done it now. And the future looks really bright. I think let's hope that he will stay at least for another 4 years. When he was offered when it wasn't offered it, but when Beckenbauer was talking about him becoming the manager of Bayern Munich, he said let's think about this situation again in 4 or 5 years, or more or less. That's what he meant. So I would think that that meant that he was thinking about staying at Liverpool for the next 4 or 5 years. I think he's assembled this great team, and he's won the Champions League. So he's done the hard work. Now he wants to reap, everybody, not only him and everyone associated with the club, want to reap the benefits of the team he's created. So if he stays 4 or 5 years, I think that that's enough to really sweep the board. He can win the Premier League a couple of times. He can win the Champions League again. He can win the World Club Championship. He can win the European Super Cups. He can probably pick up the FA Cup and the League Cup. He can win everything over the next 4 or 5 years and leave with his head held high, and everybody will wish him well when he goes. And Liverpool will be such a super club by that time that they'll just get another super manager will just walk in to take his place. So let's hope things do go like that. Just returning to Manchester City again, Pep Guardiola, we haven't heard much of him now since the Champions League, and he must really be quite frustrated in some ways because, okay, he won a treble at home, but nobody's talking about it anymore. Everybody's talking about Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool winning the Champions League and fantastic comebacks and so on and so forth. And everyone knows that there's only 1 point between those two teams, so it's not like Liverpool won the Champions League and critics can start saying, oh yeah, but look, Klopp is 25 points behind City. It's not like that anymore. They're neck and neck. Okay, City won it by 1 point, but they are the same basically. And let's hope Liverpool can win it next time. In fact, it's a bit embarrassing for Guardiola all round because he's been in England for 3 years now, and he's had some terrible performances in the Champions League, and especially over the last couple of years when he's been winning 198 points. He's been knocked out by other Premier League teams. It's like Bayern Munich winning the it's like Bayern Munich winning the winning the Bundesliga, and then Borussia Dortmund winning the Champions League 1 year, and Bayer Leverkusen or some other team winning it the next season. So yeah, he's the champion of England for 2 years, but he's not the champion of Europe. So, and he's been knocked out by other English teams both times. So yeah, whatever he says, it must rankle a little bit. Nobody's really talked about it, but yeah, he must have been, I think, being human, he must have been hoping against hope that Klopp and Liverpool would not win the Champions League, because it inevitably steals his thunder a bit. So yeah, to finish off then, great performance by Liverpool, and I hope and think that they can go the extra mile next season if they keep their present players and add some squad depth. And I think they can win the Premier League in that case next season, and can even win the Champions League next year. If not next year, I think if Klopp stays for another 4 or 5 years, they will win it again anyway. I would expect, as long as everything goes fine and they don't start hemorrhaging players, I would expect Klopp to win the Premier League at least once and maybe twice in the next 4 or 5 years, and probably the Champions League again. And then he should probably be able to pick up all the lesser trophies like FA Cup, League Cup, at least once during that time. And I hope they win the World Club Championship next year, something in Qatar, something they haven't done before, and pick up the European Super Cup. And all these trophies are coming thick and fast now, and let's hope that Liverpool are in a position to take advantage and get them all. So well done the Reds, and let's see more of it next year.